If you still think the Vatican is just a religious institution, this one symbol at the Pope's funeral will change your mind. Well, the Pope passed away a couple of weeks ago after a long battle with severe pneumonia. Here's a short clip from his funeral.
In the war, don't look at what's in front of you. Boost, moving up and down again.
Wait, did you see that? Why is there an upside down cross in the Pope's funeral? Isn't it literally the symbol of the Church of Satan? So what the hell is going on here? Let's talk about the Pope, because there is a lot to unpack here. This man was no innocent spiritual leader, I'll tell you that. He pushed agendas, he promoted biological weapons, opened portals. Have you ever looked closely at the Pope's staff or the hand gestures that he constantly makes? And then there is the Vatican itself. You think it's just a church? Think again. The Vatican is a sovereign state with its own bank, its own laws, and a secret archive filled with classified knowledge the public is not allowed to see.
The Vatican Church and its apostolic archives, a veritable fortress of forbidden knowledge. Founded in 1612, the Vatican Apostolic Archives is home to over 53 miles worth of shelving in order to hold all of the knowledge that the Holy See has sequestered away over the centuries, and is not available in its full form to the public. It is not even available in its full form to scholars. You need to be a specific scholar within a specific discipline, and then you can make a specific request for a specific piece of information. You may be provided that information, but you are not provided anything outside of your requests. This is how the intelligence community operates with classified programs, silos and stovepipes, compartmented intelligence, special access programs. This is the same behavior being exhibited by the Vatican in relation to our own history.
Now, when you think about the Vatican, you probably imagine blessings, prayers, and maybe a slightly sleepy pope waving from a balcony. But what if the real power isn't spiritual? It's financial. Welcome to the Vatican Bank, officially the Institute for the Works of Religion, IOR, but unofficially, it's more like Goldman Sachs wearing a crucifix. We're talking $8 billion in assets, 33,000 secret accounts, and a history messier than your teenage bedroom. Money laundering, mafia ties, and mysterious deaths. All this from an institution that preaches poverty and humility on Sundays, but apparently spends weekdays writing a very different gospel. One that reads suspiciously like the Panama Papers. But the Vatican Bank wasn't just born. It was baptized in the fires of World War II. Established in 1942, officially to manage church funds, unofficially to funnel Nazi gold looted from Jewish families into Swiss bank accounts, its mission started dark and stayed that way. Post-war cleanup? Hardly. From the 60s to the 80s, it became the mafia's favorite laundry, cleaning billions in cash from drugs, extortion, and illegal arms sales.
Strange rooms were opened by the Pope just months before his death. And some of their halls of worship, well, look at one of them. What does it look like? A serpent, and in Christian theology, the serpent is Satan.
Let's stop playing games. You've seen the photos. You've seen the structure. The Paul VI audience hall in the Vatican is a damn snake. I'm not talking symbolism or poetic metaphors. I'm talking literal architectural design. The building looks like a reptile from the outside. From the inside, it's even worse. You've got two windows shaped like eyes. A stage that curves like a serpent's mouth. The ceiling scales. If you need someone to explain that away as a coincidence, you're already too far gone. Now here's where it gets worse. At the front of the hall, where you'd expect a cross, a holy altar, something sacred, you've got this disgusting monstrosity called the Resurrection by Pericle Phasani. It's supposed to represent Christ emerging from the ashes of nuclear chaos. But don't insult your own intelligence. Look at it. It's not Christ. It's a twisted demonic figure bursting through hell, surrounded by tortured forms. The face is deformed. The posture isn't triumphant, it's threatening. If that's your idea of the Son of God, you've already swallowed the Vatican's programming. Ask yourself, why would the headquarters of the largest religious institution on earth design its primary hall of communication to resemble a snake's head? Why is the central sculpture horrifying instead of holy? Why are all their artistic expressions saturated in symbols of death, mutation, and reptilian design? Because it's not just about aesthetics. This is architecture as control. Architecture as initiation. They don't build symbols for the sheep, they build them for each other. The ones who are in on it. They're speaking in plain sight, but only to those who know how to read it.
Let's go deeper. Did you know the Vatican has one of the world's most advanced telescopes? Its name? Lucifer. Yeah, you heard me right.
The Vatican has priests stationed here in these mountains who are doing research on space and even other inhabitable worlds.
So I'm a Jesuit priest, but here in Tucson we have a research base of the Vatican Observatory.
So the Vatican Observatory has ties that go back several hundreds of years. But why I find this story particularly interesting now is when I heard about it, I called my friend Dave. He's been a science journalist longer than I could possibly remember.
You mentioned this last week. I'd never heard of them before. I asked some people out here, and they basically said, what? Very few people, space journalists even. I just find that really weird.
Wait till you find out about the Vatican astronomer saying he's operating with Project Lucifer. Okay, I promised you we would find out this great Catholic astronomer, the number one, is operating with something called Project Lucifer. What is that?
Well, up on top of Mount Graham in Arizona, there's an observatory complex that consists of 3 very high-powered telescopes. One is the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. There's a radio telescope, and then there's one called the Large Binocular Telescope. This is the most powerful telescope in the world. In fact, they told us they can get better images of space than the Hubble Space Telescope can. Now, attached to this telescope is an infrared camera named Lucifer, which is really a kind of an odd name for a camera. And from the information that we gathered, this thing was named by the Max Planck Institute and some German astronomers. But the Vatican is part of this conglomerate up there, that they're all working together. Now, what this instrument's used for is astrobiology, for looking for exoplanets, looking for other worlds. And the infrared spectrum is also very useful for seeing things that can't be seen with the naked eye. And many UFO researchers have noted that you can see a lot of ships and entities that you normally can't see.
Tell me about what the Vatican astronomers are telling you, or what others, experts, I mean, you had a research team.
Right.
Tell me a few of the things they're telling
Well,
you.
first of all, the day that we spent it on Mount Graham, the entire day there, we had the Jesuits speaking to us face to face. We also had systems engineers. It was astonishing, the access that they gave us. And one of the things we found amazing in the use of the Lucifer device and even the other telescopes is how commonly the astronomers spoke of UFOs. We were just taken back by the fact that it was almost a nuisance to them that there are so many.
What about CERN? So for those of you who don't know, CERN is a massive underground laboratory spanning under several European countries where they smash atoms together to unlock the secrets of the universe. And the Vatican sent some of its scientists to work at CERN.
September 2008, the largest, most complex, and most expensive machine ever devised by man was turned on. The Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, is a 17-mile-long ring of superconducting electromagnets buried approximately 300 feet beneath the ground near the city of Geneva on the Franco-Swiss border. Chilled to temperatures colder than the void of outer space and generating a magnetic field more than 100,000 times that of the Earth's, this machine accelerates proton particle beams to a velocity just under the speed of light and then smashes them together in particle detector chambers in order to break apart the nuclei and unloose the subatomic secrets of matter. At full power, the LHC produces roughly 600 million collisions per second, creating fleeting, minuscule atomic explosions up to 1 million times hotter than the interior of the sun. The data collected from these collisions is processed by the worldwide LHC computing grid, one of the most extensive and powerful computing grids on the planet. The grid, as it is known, builds on the technology of the World Wide Web, which was invented at CERN in 1989. The Large Hadron Collider is the primary research instrument of the European Organization for Nuclear Research, otherwise known as CERN.
Sounds cool, right? Until you realize they have a statue of the Hindu goddess of destruction, Shiva, right outside their facility. And some more interesting facts.
The concept of unperceivable dimensions existing essentially in the same space we physically occupy is not only very probable, but also very widely accepted in the scientific community. Many top physicists are quietly hoping that the proton collisions happening at the Large Hadron Collider will puncture the fabric of our four-dimensional confine and allow us to peek through the keyhole, as it were, into another dimension or alternate universe. Some physicists have not been so quiet about this very real possibility. During a press briefing in 2009, Sergio Bertolucci, Director for Research and Scientific Computing at CERN, made the following curious statement. The Large Hadron Collider could open a doorway to an extra dimension, and out of this door might come something, or we might send something through it. There is no question that the scientists working at CERN hope to open a dimensional doorway. The real question is, what is the something that might come through when they do? Of course, for the particle physicists, the answer is simple. They hope to discover new particles that might exist on alternate dimensional planes. There is no doubt that this is the true and honest intention of the vast majority of physicists working at CERN. The problem is, as previously illustrated, that scientists, despite their best intentions, have always been little more than expendable tools in the hands of their benefactors. The pinnacle of science, for its elite occult practitioners, is not discovery, but contact. There are many indications that the power players of our world, including the Vatican, are preparing to make contact with the gods of the old world.
Same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want.
We're surrounded by symbols, and they're not even trying to hide them anymore.
I mean, we got a pope that brought a South American idol into the church to worship.
Really?
He did. The Pachamama. He bought the South American, and he got.
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like a South American god, Pachamama.
Why would he do that?
Good question. But he did.
So he brought that in.
Yeah, into the Vatican. Then the hierarchy even worshipped. They had a ceremony around it outside.
What?
So, well, that constitutes apostasy.
Yeah, worshipping false gods.
Yeah. Moses goes up on the mountain, he comes back down, people are worshiping a golden calf.
Yeah.
You know, it's that.
Yeah.
So you can't do that.
Do you think there's a motive behind these things?
I don't think probably.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. But it isn't good.
How about the Pope's prophecy?
Want to hear something terrifying? The prophecy of the popes.
Oh
Oh boy.
This book was found in the Vatican archives, predicted every single pope from in 1143 all the way to our current pope. But the scary thing is, after Pope Francis, the last one, it just says Judgment Day.
Oh gosh.
It literally ends after Pope Francis?
Yes. The creepiest thing that I saw inside St. Paul's Basilica, bordering the whole inner sanctuary, is every single pope. But what's weird is that there's only a certain amount of markers to where you can put a picture. There's one left after Pope Francis. They have always said that once that last slot is filled, it will be the end of the world.
The USA scandals.
This document, Mission Objective 2.2 from .gov. Leverage Pope Francis's position on climate change to encourage governments and the private sector to strengthen their commitments to environmental goals, climate goals. Objective 2.2 justification. Pope Francis is a high-profile advocate for aggressive action to combat climate change through effective collaboration with the Vatican. POST can ensure that USG interests are represented in diverse stakeholders, from governments to corporate leaders, are encouraged to take concrete actions to minimize human contributions to climate change and mitigate the effects on vulnerable populations. Objective 2.2 linkages. The objective goal supports Goal 1.2 of the State USAID Joint Strategic Plan and Objective 4.0 of the Euro Joint Regional Strategy Framework. Objective 2.2 risks. Pope Francis has been critical of global efforts, including the COP26, for not going far enough to combat climate change. If U.S. efforts and commitments are considered insufficient, the Vatican could choose to limit high-level engagement. Including the Vatican and U.S. efforts and international engagements at an early stage will foster a sense of ownership in the process.
And a long list of unexplained Vatican activity that raises serious questions.
Who is the Pope? He is the Emperor of Rome. Rome never died, never faded away. It became the Vatican. What is the Vatican? It is the priesthood of all of the old pagan religions of Rome, built upon the deception that they are Christian. Can man change the orders of God? Can man elevate himself above God? No. Then why did the Pope change the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, the venerable day of the worship of the sun Osiris? Why in the outer courtyard of the Vatican is there a temple of the sun, an obelisk, and a reflecting pool, built as a fountain around the base of the obelisk? Because what we're talking about in Dealey Plaza and in Washington, D.C. exists also in the Vatican. And I'm not trying to insult Catholics, I'm just trying to tell you the truth.
So, what do you think? Because to me, it's crystal clear we're not being told the whole truth. If this shocks you, don't just scroll, share this video, wake others up and drop a fire, or I see it now in the comments. And if you're ready to go deeper, DM or comment the word truth and I'll send you what they don't want you to see. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
French cardinal come out and say to us, I announce to you, can you tell great news, good news, Habemus Papam.